We are appalled by accounts that those trying to deliver much-needed aid have once again come under attack. On the 20th of August, a humanitarian convoy consisting of 16 trucks carrying essential food supplies was hit by aerial strikes in Melit in North Darfur. This incident follows a previous attack on a UN humanitarian convoy in Al-Khoma, North Darfur, on the 2nd of June. Humanitarian assistance and workers are protected explicitly under international humanitarian law and must not be targeted. Attacks on humanitarian efforts only worsens the human rights situation for civilians. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk calls on all parties to the conflict to take concrete measures immediately to ensure the protection of all civilians, including safe passage for those wishing to leave conflict-affected areas and to facilitate unimpeded humanitarian assistance for those in need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope that from home you don't see the problems we have with the screens, but sorry for that. So I'll open now the floor to questions. Sudan is so important, and we really need to keep it in the light. So any question on this particular situation in the room? I don't see any hands up. Let me see. Let me go. Yeah, Boris, please.
Sorry, I only can again ask a very childish question. Don't misunderstand me. I am, as everyone, appalled with what happens in Gaza, but I am surprised by the difference in rhetorics, in narrative, both from the civil society or occasionally from UN agencies, when it comes to Gaza and when it's about other humanitarian disasters. How do you explain or justify or perceive this? It's a real issue for those listening, for journalists who want to be fair and cover equally comparable horrors.
Yes. First of all, I wouldn't be here to speak on behalf of civil society, but when it comes to messages from not only our office, but the UN at large, we are quite emphatic. It's when it comes to human rights, and particularly when it comes to international human rights law and international humanitarian law, regardless where these breaches occur, we will call them out. Sudan, Gaza, Myanmar, Ukraine. And there are, sadly, many other conflicts where these breaches occur, and we will continue to call them out.
Christian, I see that you have something to add on Sudan, so I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alessandra, and I think it's thank you, Jeremy, for taking the lead on this on another very important crisis. And so let me add a few points here, as they have been indeed very important and very much not too much in the media, like Boris has just pointed out. All Sudan's 18 states are reporting cholera cases. Over 100,000 cases and more than 2,740 deaths have been reported since July 2024, so that's in the last year. 62% of all cases and 55% of all deaths, so that's much more than half, are from Khartoum, from Jazeera, Gedaref, and White Nile states. 12% of cases are in children under 5, and 10% of deaths are also in children under 5. Since the reports of the first case in South Darfur on 29 May this year, 2025, the disease has now spread to 28 localities across all the 5 Darfur states. Efforts are underway to urgently launch a cholera vaccination campaign in priority localities in South Darfur. Cholera has spread to 22 localities across the 3 Kordofan states, with again more than 9,000 cases and up to 500 deaths having been reported. And just a reminder, cholera is an ancient disease, easy to treat. It would not have to be around. El Fasher in Darfur state is suffering a severe humanitarian and public health crisis driven by, of course, the active conflict, blockade, and mass displacement. Civilians in and around the city, including Abu Shuk, the IDP camp there, face severe food shortages, rising malnutrition deaths, and severely limited access to healthcare. The large cholera outbreak is ongoing across Darfur state and has hit communities and displacement sites, adding pressure to already fragile services. Access to healthcare across Sudan continues to be severely constrained due to the insecurity, the attacks on healthcare, shortage on medicines and medical supplies, and shortage of health personnel and cash to cover health facilities' operational costs. 38% of all health facilities are non-functional and 62 are partially functioning. Child vaccination rates have declined from over 90% at the end of 2022 to 48% as of now. The disruption of childhood vaccinations, disease surveillance, and vector control, coupled with the access issues that we have and the natural disasters, has created conditions for the spread of disease outbreaks, namely, of course, cholera. Acute malnutrition is also ongoing and surging. Between 1 January and 31 July, so the first big half of the year, nearly 20,000 children have been admitted to stabilization centers for the treatment of severe acute malnutrition with medical complications. WHO is supporting 142 nutrition stabilization centers in this year for the management of severely acute malnourished children with medical complications. Attacks on healthcare continue to mark the conflict in Sudan. Since 15 April 2023, so in the last, 2.5 years, WHO has verified 177 attacks on healthcare, which led to over 1,000 deaths and injuries. Gender-based violence has dramatically increased. We have seen reports on this all over. 12 million people, a quarter of the population, are at risk. According to UNFPA, this is a 200% increase in just 1 year. WHO currently supports 60 primary healthcare centers and 142 nutrition stabilization centers. WHO also delivered 488 metric tons of medical supplies in 2025 and reached over 12 million people with oral cholera